Hello, Rachel. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. I feel like we're at an end of a journey, dare I say.
Are we ending the podcast here and we don't have to rewatch season 3?
Okay. Well, it was great potting with you. The Yum Yum was here. The Yum Yum was there. Of course, that's all joking around. We are Ryan and Rachel. This is Yum Yum Podcast because, of course, Yum Yum, the iconic line of dialogue from Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery, was so iconic, so sensual, so seductive, so profound that, of course, we would have to name our show after it. It is such an iconic line. And Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery is what we have been discussing, Rachel. Now we have finished going episode by episode, and we're here to recap the season, go over our feelings, talk about the episodes, talk about all the stuff, and see how we feel now about the whole season upon the rewatch, how it's been cemented for us, how it stacks up, dare I say.
Let's do it.
Hit it.
Let's go and recap ourselves, as well as the people listening, about what episodes featured in this season. So we'll go through each one of the episodes, give a quick fire synopsis of what we remember. So we're not reading the descriptions on IMDb. This is just our base memory, because after all,
Going off the episode titles.
And that's it. We're just going to go off of our memories. We've reviewed each one of them. We've watched these episodes a multitude of times now. So they should be able to have stuck in our brains. And if not, maybe that speaks to the long-lasting legacy and quality of the episode itself. So, Rachel, how did Season 2 kick off?
With Brother.
Okay.
What do you remember about Brother?
Oh, you're throwing it to me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we're going different. We're going, I'm odds and you're evens. Unlike how we review it. So, I think Brother was the one in which they found Tig Notaro in an asteroid field. That's all I remember.
I didn't remember that part. I just remember that it's called Brother in reference to Spock, and
Who's not
adult
in the episode.
Spock does not appear. I think there may have been a flashback or two.
Oh, the season started with a flashback.
Yeah.
And some weird narration. So that's episode 1. Episode 2 was New Eden, which I would describe as the episode in which they finally encountered the Prime Directive in the show.
Yeah,
and probably for the last time.
Probably the most Star Trek-y episode in a lot of ways of this season and the whole show.
Each season has their one episode that's like a real direct callback to previous Star Trek. Last season we had the Harry Mudd episode, which was a real callback to the TNG Cause and Effect episode, and a few other timey-wimey ones. This one here, New Eden, was definitely the one that calls back to a lot of other Star Trek episodes that really delve into the Prime Directive and the General Away mission. So what was the one after that? What was episode 3?
Point of Light, which was the Klingon-based episode with the I am mother moment and the decapitated baby head and decapitated Ash Tyler head.
Oh, yeah, the leftovers of season 1.
With Giorgio having a Klingon face for like a split second.
For no reason.
For no real reason.
Only to reveal her own face. Yeah, that was an episode. An Obel for Sharon was episode 4 of season 2. That was the one in which the sphere finally showed up, made Saru think he was dying, but actually made him accelerate in his evolution, and there was a bunch of miscommunication gags because the translator was all fucky, and they sang some David Bowie, I'm pretty sure, at one point. That's what I remember of that episode, of episode 4.
Is that when Tilly is hiding the fact that she's infected?
She does that for a little bit. I think she's already revealed it because episode 5 is
Saints of Imperfection. She is dealing with that and her being pulled into the network.
Yep.
Or being in the network.
She's in the network.
She's in the network with May.
What a great character that was, huh?
Fuck off. Fuck off, May.
I hope we see her again. They promised that we would see her again. So remember, people, the writers and the show made a promise, and as they say, Star Trek Discovery always follows through. So we're definitely going to see May again.
And Hugh gets brought back too.
Oh, that's great, because in the next episode, talking about bringing stuff back, The Sound of Thunder brings back the idea of Saru's people being a slave race.
Yes,
so this is
which was brought up in the
season
short
1
treks.
and season 1 as well. So they come to terms with that. They visit Saru's home planet and liberate it from the evil oppressors that were the Baul. And Saru evolves, and everyone on his planet evolves, and Saru's character arc and character ends there and is now reset with a new version of Saru, who is just some officer who happens to be an alien.
Yeah, and then we have Light and Shadows, where Burnham finds Spock. And we discover that Amanda has tried everything, but not reversing numbers.
I like how you remember that and not the actual plot, which is Time Rift, because the follow-up is episode 8, one of the highest rated episodes, If Memory Serves, which is, do you remember the cage?
We visit the Telosians.
No, you don't need to sum up anymore. Do you remember the cage, the unaired pilot? Because you better. Don't worry, we have a little clip show at the beginning to remind you about that story from over 50 years ago. What was episode 9, Rach?
Project Daedalus, which is the one where Ariam dies.
Oh, yeah, the one where they try to give her a character.
Yeah.
We follow that one up with episode 10, The Red Angel, which was the one where we had Alan on as a guest. What was episode 11? I don't actually remember the plot of the Red Angel episode. That was the one where they had to murder Michael.
Let's
was
say
that the
goodbye, let's say goodbye, let's say goodbye again.
No, that's Sweet Sorrow. That's such Sweet Sorrow. That's a different one.
But she does that mini version in the Red Angel when she's like, she knows that she's about to go let herself
Oh,
be
that's
killed.
That's right. Everyone in the Mirror Universe is pansexual. That's the episode.
Yeah.
So what was episode 11?
Perpetual Infinity.
Well, that was episode 11. So episode 12 was Through the Valley of Shadows, which, hey, do you remember the menagerie? Because this is a prequel to that story, ooh la la. And that was episode 11, episode 12. Rachel, what was episode 13 about?
Such sweet sorrow. It's setting up the massive battle that happens in the next episode.
You could have just said goodbye over and over and over again, and that would have summed it up.
Goodbye.
14, the season finale. And episode 14, the season finale, the thing that wraps us all up together, that answers all the big questions, answers the big mystery, finishes all of our character arcs and development, and follows through on the theme, Yum Yum.
Yum Yum.
We talked a lot about season 1, and we contained it to itself because we could only really compare it so much. But season 2, we even started off with, well, this is trying to fix the issues of the first season. Everyone says this. Star Trek, it takes a few seasons to get going in each given one. It takes a little while for a show to find its feet. So, what would you say, how did season 2 improve over the first season? Was it an improvement?
Why you gotta give me a hard question?
Was season 2 an improvement?
I find this question hard. Because in some ways it was an improvement, and in others it wasn't. So the main thing for this discussion point for me is that it is more consistent, but I do not like what it becomes consistent as.
Yeah.
So it's better that it's more consistent, but it's not necessarily a good thing because what it's doing consistently, I don't like.
It's consistent in some ways, both good but also bad. Well, the first season, you would have highs and lows, and that was a whole thing of itself. Kind of a joyful thing to watch of, wow, this episode really stank, and then the next one was really enthralling or had something on it. And this season definitely had large sections of the same note was being played.
Yeah, like
And it was like you
season
could
1 was more like a roller coaster, and this is more, I guess, like a really shitty tunnel of love.
So you're saying shitty though? Does that kind of implies that it isn't a good thing though? Like, to me, I would
No, like the ride itself is smooth, but the water stinks and smells a little like sewage. You sit on the seat and you're like, there's definitely cum that's been stuck here and there's gum there. But you know what? It keeps on chugging along.
Yeah, I found this very hard because I didn't like the second season on the initial watch. There were things I liked about the first, but now having to rewatch it, I will say that I think I see the light a bit more of why people initially were saying second season is a drastic improvement over the first season, because now having to rewatch the first season with the context of the other seasons and analyzing and going through it by episode, there was a lot more negative things that really were very offensive and bad. The bury your gays trope, the whole sexual assault storyline that they seemed to just put there to make you empathize with the character but didn't want to follow through on. Second season didn't have anything morally offensive to me. It just was offensive in terms of storytelling.
Yeah.
But that in itself doesn't mean it's necessarily a great improvement. But I will say, I think it was an improvement. It was an improvement. The tone was more consistent with itself. There were more likable characters as well, with someone like Pike and someone like Jet.
Pike is there and Jet is there, but then we started to hate Tilly and Paul
we'll
much
get
more.
We'll get to the
characters, but that's what I mean. Like,
but on our rewatch, we also hated those characters in the first season. So it's consistent in keeping up with the bad.
More in the first season than the second. So it feels like it gives you something, but it takes it away. So it ends up being kind of level.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways with season 1, but season 1 feels much worse because of the moral issues that we have with the stories that they decided to
Although
tell.
we heavily criticized the Red Signals and the Red Angel plot, I think it was an improvement as a narrative hook of the season over the Klingon War, because it actually, although we didn't get a red signal
was a mystery.
It was a mystery, but over the Klingon War, even though we didn't get the red signals as much as we would have liked, it did feel like the Red Signals and the Red Angel were overbearing on the season in comparison to the Klingon War, which there were so many times in which it felt like,
happening?
Is there a war? And then when it wrapped up the war, you're like, I didn't even feel like we got it started with the Red Signals. Although I still think that they could have handled it better. I will say it did feel like a season-long improvement over the Klingon War. There was more of an investment there for me. There was some intrigue there, and each one of the signals did affect whole episodes, and not just a singular one, but multitudes of ones, as well as Control was an overarching thing that, unlike the Klingon War, actually felt like it took place in the characters' journeys. While the Klingon War, it felt like, well, we wanted this thing with Ash Tyler, so we have to have a war, and it just felt very leftovers from Brian Fuller had an idea maybe one time, and then they had to follow through. So, to me, I have changed my mind. Season 2 is an improvement over Season 1. Initially, I didn't think so. But now I see that point of view far more clearly. Which begs the question, did this season get better or worse on the rewatch?
Some of it got worse and some of it got better. So it ended up being kind of meh. It didn't make me as angry this time, because I think I mentioned this in the season 1 recap as well. Rewatching it, you know where there is a little bit of hope and where there's no hope.
Yes.
So I didn't get as angry at it because I knew that it wasn't going to do anything good, and I wasn't expecting anything good from it. So it ended up kind of being the same, with a few things being worse. The main thing that made it worse was me realizing how much work I'd done for the writers in filling in gaps.
Yeah.
And I was particularly reflecting on that with Jet Reno, because I remember her being more of a character, and rewatching it, I'm like, oh no, wait, she actually is just Tig Notaro, and I like Tig Notaro.
It is a tricky one, because it does feel like an improvement over the first season, but overall, I would say it got worse to me on the rewatch of this because of two central reasons. I don't think this season had anything to say. The first season tried to say so many things, but didn't know how to say them. In its defense, I felt like the idea of Lorca and the idea of Ash Tyler and Michael Burnham being a mutiny and her arc and all these things within that season, there were ideas and sentiments that were so crystal clear to me that it wanted to communicate across, but didn't fully succeed at it. While this season on a rewatch, I can see that they have something about faith and spirituality, but it's only something.
Yeah.
I don't understand what they are trying to say, and at the end of the journey, I feel like they had nothing to say other than iconography of those things. But to me, that is a big weakness in the rewatch, is I feel like overall the season had nothing to say. And then the other thing is I had no characters that I attached myself to this season. Because upon a rewatch factor, I noticed that the character I attached myself to was Christopher Pike. And the only reason I attached myself to him is because he reminds me of older Star Trek.
Yeah, you knew him already.
I knew a version of him, but this character is different to that version.
Yes.
But he reminded me of Kirk. He reminded me of old school Star Trek. But the other thing that is a double-edged sword is, I know for a fact he does not stay in Star Trek Discovery. He leaves, and it adds to this hopelessness, this overall hopelessness, because I'm watching a season of the rotating captain's chair, but just rotating characters, because I feel like, why am I getting myself attached to Pike? Oh, because he's a thing I'm familiar with, and he won't stay around. And then I'm realizing, who is staying around? Oh, no one I'm invested in anymore, because I've said my points about Saru in the past. I feel like they've undercut him, and season 3 really proves that they undercut him even further. Michael Burnham kind of got nothing to do this season until the very end. Most of the season, she's just kind of wandering about the place.
Being like, Mommy!
Tilly was shockingly embarrassing.
Fuck off.
Paul.
Tilly's responsible for May, which makes me like her even less.
Paul had nothing to do this season. He was like a shadow of a shadow.
And then Hugh will cover.
And it just goes on and on. So to me, on the rewatch factor, it was worse. Not just because I knew the big picture, but just as sitting down and watching it, I'm like, what is the show saying? I don't think it's saying anything. And if it is, it's so muddled or so vapid that it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't affect me as a viewer. And who are these characters? Why am I following them? Should I care about them? And that didn't get answered either.
The mysteries that we have been exploring over the course of this season will be answered in what I feel is a satisfying way. The character journeys that we have been on will also be addressed in what will hopefully be a satisfying way as well. And more adventures to come.
This season, along with every season of Star Trek in the current generation, is about the mystery. Trust the mystery. This is all going to resolve. Once this puzzle piece is put into place, you'll stand back and marvel at the genius. So many times, people would say, hey, you can't judge the show until the mystery is revealed, because all of these nonsensical things might make sense when all of it is revealed, when the magician pulls the rabbit out of the hat. So, how did the mystery feel and hold up to you on this watching of it? Was it satisfying?
No.
Why not?
That's the short answer. And for me, a lot of it comes down to how dumb the show treated me. So any information was told over and over again. They deliberately left gaps that made it so obvious where they were going.
Or the opposite, they'll throw something completely foreign at you to make you feel like there was a twist, and then reveal that foreign thing thrown at you was actually just a red herring, and there was no twist.
Yeah. And I'm mainly thinking of the beats where it's like, Michael, we have your DNA. You are the Red Angel. Wait, no, it's your mum. No, it's actually you.
Yeah, that's not a twist. We all knew it was Michael.
Not a twist, and they milk it for episodes and episodes, and they think that it's so dramatic.
They thought it was
And
a twist that, 8 episodes in, they revealed the Red Angel was Michael. Something that literally any person who had just started the show would have figured out from episode 1.
Yeah.
It would have
And-
actually been a twist if in episode 2 they revealed that and then grappled with it for the rest of the season, trying to figure out what the fuck's going on, like a
And the
detective
same
story.
thing was felt with Leland killed your parents. Mattered less than fuck all. Didn't change Michael's opinion of Leland at all because she already disliked him. Gave her an excuse to punch him, though.
The season being a big mystery thing. I'm not against mysteries. I'm not against big overall mysteries in your season-long arcs. I'm a big fan of Babylon 5, as are you, and there's many mysteries and twists and turns in that narrative, and some of them get fully explained, some of them get partially explained, some of them don't even get explained, and that is done in a much more satisfying fashion because at the end of the day, I walk away feeling that the creators of the show made it up as they went along, and or reverse engineered everything to fit into the places that they wanted the story to go. We talked about it at the very beginning. How did they know who Jet Reno was? How did they know to go get Jet Reno? How did they know where Jet Reno was? Basic things that you would expect the story to actually answer. Instead, it just answers why they needed Jet Reno. Doesn't answer all the other stuff. And same with basic stuff of, remember previous season that it was morally dangerous to put Paul into the spore drive? Well, it's okay because Pike says we need it for the general mission. What is
We
the general
need it.
mission? We don't.
Genetic manipulation.
What is the
aside,
general-
Eugenics? Nah, it's not really
But
that
Rachel,
anymore.
we need it for the priority mission. Well, what is the priority mission? These red signals, why are they important? All life is at risk. Why is all life at risk? We don't have time to talk about that.
No,
Moving on.
Well, but we will say it and then we will explain it later.
No, they don't explain it later. They learn firsthand that all life is at risk, but it doesn't make
Yes.
sense at the very beginning of the
No,
season.
That's what.
And exactly that. There's the feeling of they either make it up as they go along or they hammer in these pegs into the wrong holes to get the results that they want. And that is not a satisfying journey for the mystery. So even when the reveal of the mystery is something obvious, like Michael is the angel, there's many mysteries where the reveal is something very obvious, but the twist and turns in the story along the way to that is the thing that is intriguing, rather than look who the Red Angel is.
But Ryan,
Mm.
also for that, we're required to be invested.
Yeah, and the mystery, although was far more overbearing and present than the Klingon War, we didn't understand what the stakes were for the longest time. We don't still understand how did
All
they...
sentient life. All sentient
They
life.
say that later, but they don't...
All sentient life.
And they
The
just...
life of the universe.
And they just say at the beginning, oh, well, all life's at risk because there's red signals, but they don't explain that. They don't follow through on that. So we don't understand, other than the nebulous idea of all life is at risk, so we better find these red signals. It's not just the beginning of the mystery, because, of course, we could go on for years about, well, how did all the red signals appear at once? And if they did all appear at once and they have their locations, why don't they just travel to them all? Like, it doesn't matter. That does matter. But the things that do matter along the way of the mystery is not just the breadcrumbs, but the characters along the way and their journeys along the way. It's not just the mystery, but this show thinks the mystery is the most important thing and everything else is secondary.
Here's how I like to structure a season when you're in the room. You spend the first couple of months talking about what you want the show to be, and you ideally decide on an outcome. We want the finale to be here. This is where we want to end them. And so once you know that, you can reverse engineer your season very strategically to get to that outcome. It's really critical. So I always think of it as like there are going to be 4 major pivot points that I want to identify at the beginning to know how to get to that place. But I don't want to fill in too many of the gaps, because if I fill in too many of the gaps, it doesn't leave any room to be surprised as we continue to break story throughout the season. So it's a matter of having a structure that allows you the freedom to improvise.
We talk about the season is interested in the mystery, but we know that it's not just interested in the mystery, it's interested in exploring themes. I ask you, what was the overall theme of this season?
So I agree with what you were saying before about how it feels like it should be, or they were trying to do something around faith.
Yes, the collision of science and faith was what they said
Yeah.
at the end of the first season. They want to explore that idea.
Trying to do something with that. But for me, the central theme ended up being nobody left behind.
But they left so many people behind.
Yeah, exactly. But like Starfleet sticks together and perseveres because they're not willing to let this problem follow through. They aren't willing to let Michael go through on her own. So our central crew sticks with her.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess
But-
that's an interesting
and
idea because...
Pike sticks with his place and Spock returns to his place, and everybody has a place in the universe, and
Yeah.
nobody gets left behind and nobody's on their own.
Except for Michael's mum. I agree, that's an interesting idea. I didn't think about it like that. My overall thing was they're trying to say something about faith because they say the phrase faith,
You're trying
A
to make me
leap
say
of faith?
leap of faith.
a billion times throughout the season.
So many times. Maybe that'll
And
be our super cut for
This season,
this
yeah.
season.
But I've heard them talk about it in interviews, and I can see it on the screen. They're trying to have some idea of collision of science and faith. And the only episodes I feel that comes to a pass is the New Eden episode and the Sound of Thunder episode, in which you have the people of New Eden, the Prime Directive, science fiction, but they have faith. How do we deal with that? And Saru's people. I think there's some other sprinkled throughout, but they feel so surface level. And even those two are pretty skin deep. They don't hit anything of the nerves and the muscles. But
Nope, ain't got time for that. We gotta deal with
I don't know what they're trying to
We
say.
gotta tell you what you are feeling, what you should be feeling, and what everybody is doing.
what do they have to say about faith and spirituality? What is the show's standpoint to you after watching this season? What do they have to say?
That you can have faith and believe in science.
Is that it? That's it?
That's my best guess.
To me, I've said it before, I think their views on faith is there's only one type.
Oh, blind faith.
Blind faith.
Blind faith is the only faith. Sorry. I
Anyone...
didn't even think to bring that up just because we've mentioned it so much.
Blind faith. Have blind faith in the show itself that all of this is going to work out.
Just trust.
The characters just need to trust the mystery, trust the faith, and trust that their places are going to be preordained into these positions. And I ask, not something I'm completely objecting to, but I will question, in a Star Trek show, which this is, by the way, this has the title Star Trek in it.
Yeah.
Why?
Has the name, not much else.
Star Trek is not something that doesn't have faith and spirituality in it. It
No.
definitely does. I've seen lots of Star Trek that does have that. Characters that are spiritual and are believers of things, but I would say one of the things I come to Star Trek for is the questioning of the establishment, the questioning of the status quo, and that in itself is anti-blind faith.
This show told us that we don't have time for metaphysics, and we go back to that point because that was the writers in the show telling us who they are. And we have just accepted it at this point.
You have. I haven't. I haven't. I can't accept that you go from a show that, yes, it's an idealistic future, you could say, or utopian view, but our characters are always questioning the status quo. They're always fighting against fascism. They're always fighting against the corruption of the within. They're always fighting against zealots.
Because
they're
that
always
potential
questioning
is
the status
always
quo.
There, or it isn't that we have a perfect society and now we just get to sit back and cruise.
Yeah, we don't rest on our laurels.
We have to keep on working to stay as good as we are and get better.
A lot of it is, what you just said, and I've talked about before. I love Star Trek because it's questioning things and problem solving. And when you have the theme be, have blind faith and just trust that everything will work out, that inherently, from a story perspective, strips away the problem solving and the questioning of things. Because I'm not anti-spirituality. I'm not anti-faith, but when I do watch a show, it has to say something clear and defining about what its views are for me to understand it. And at the end of the day, I walk away just like the mystery, thinking they didn't know what they were saying about it, they were making it up as they went along, or they just used the aesthetic of it to glue people in. Because let's be honest, the aesthetic of faith, whether you say a leap of faith or you have characters angelically lit, adds gravitas to your story and to your characters that isn't necessarily on the page. The iconography of it adds depth that isn't actually there. But at the end of the day, what is the statement they make about faith? Just trust it.
I said that the season is very much about faith, and I define faith as faith in your crew, faith in the people around you, faith in yourself, not necessarily faith in a higher power. Not that we're negating that, but I think Star Trek's definition of faith means, can I trust you in a moment of total crisis?
Do you have my back?
Do you have my back? Can you be my vessel? And can I trust myself to make the right choice when things like the Prime Directive are in question and life and death is on the line? Mm-hmm. And that's, to me, the definition of faith that we explore more this season.
Star Trek Discovery loves adding characters, just adding more characters. Let's just sprinkle on more and more characters to the mix so that our characters have less stuff to do. Who was a new character you liked that was introduced in this season?
Tig.
Tig?
Tig.
Mine's Pike.
Yeah. Like...
I like how you called the character Tig, not Jet Reno.
No.
Because it is just Tig Notaro.
It is just Tig. I knew that you were going to go with Pike, so I thought I would go with something different. Because Pike is the best thing, and we've harped on about how Ensign Mount makes that performance. And for many, many of these episodes, he's what made it bearable to watch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. His charm and effortlessness. I don't know about Jet Reno. I just don't know. Sometimes I'm on board for her, but then other times I just want her to leave the scene so that our actual characters can actually do the science and the problem solving and the genius and draw us in. But then other times I remember I kind of don't like our characters. Yeah. So I don't mind the weird bizarreness that is Tig Notaro coming in to steal the spotlight from our characters.
I like her insulting Paul because it saves me from having to do it. Yeah.
Of course, with new characters, we have to talk about our old characters as well. Who was your favorite character this season, and who was your least?
Oh, well, I think May is underrated. Did that suffice
Is
if
she
I
the
get
wor-
under your skin?
Is she the worst? Is she the worst character in Star Trek Discovery?
Yes. Yes. I think she has to be.
Is she the Neelix of this show? I mean, in all fairness, she did leave earlier than Neelix did. He stuck around. If she stuck around, I definitely would not have watched season 3. I'm just saying that right now. No offense to that actress, but that character and that performance was bloody awful. I agree. She was the worst character in the season. Out of our main crew of people, I think Paul was the worst character. He just stayed being the same level the whole season, and then next season he's basically the same level.
See, I got also really annoyed by Tilly.
Yeah, Tilly was grating, but at the same time, she had some stuff to contribute.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, it felt like he had nothing to contribute other than being the key that turns the spore drive on.
I didn't mind Owo.
Yeah, what?
She's not much of a character, but I didn't mind her.
Can we actually talk about that for a brief moment? I've been thinking about this a lot.
Yeah.
Everyone wants these characters on the periphery like Owo and Detmer and a few others to have
replacement Arium.
a replacement Arium and Arium herself and Reese and Bryce. Everyone wants these characters to have more stuff to do. And they always say...
But where do you get the time?
No, it's not about the time. It's not. People say we want more character stuff with these people, and we want to know the bridge crew more.
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking about that a lot, of why do people want that? And people say, oh, I love Linus, so I love these characters, and I love Hugh. And I go, I know why.
Okay.
Because they're limitless. They haven't been molded into whatever character types the show has forced the other characters into. So in your brain,
so flexible.
in your brain,
do anything.
you can manufacture a character for them that doesn't exist on the screen or doesn't exist in their performances. While the characters like Tilly and Paul and all that have been so pounded into their molds, there's no escaping it. Because when you watch TNG or the original series, no one actually gives a fuck about who the rest of the bridge crew are, because the characters we have in the show are so well defined and so likable and so followable that you don't give a shit about the chick with the earring over there. Because those characters, Picard, Kirk, Sisko, and so on, they're so great and entertaining to watch, but it says so much to me in this show that there are so many characters in the background, like Jet Reno, who there's possibilities of stuff you can do with them, and the fact that there's possibilities means that people want it.
Yeah.
While our actual main crew of characters, their possibilities have been drained away. Like Tilly, I agree, I found her very annoying. I found Paul very annoying. My favorite character in this season is Saru, even in spite of how they nuded him.
Yeah.
I still find him charming. I think Doug Jones is a great performer. I liked his stuff with his sister. I liked his whole Kaminar background. I liked him having to deal with things with Michael still. And he's just a Star Trek character without having to be Pike, who is, do you remember Pike? And do you remember Kirk? Because he's more of a Kirk character than a Pike character. Anson Mount is really channeling Kirk more so than the original Pike. But I like Saru, and even with what they do with him in season 3 and what they don't do with him in this season, he still stands tall to me as the heart of the show. What do you think? Is he still your favorite, or has someone else risen above that?
Nah, it's still Saru.
Why? They give him some goofy, terrible shit this season.
Yeah. He just doesn't feel as bad as the other ones because Doug Jones tries and succeeds to do more with what he's given than the other actors and characters have. And he does change.
Yeah.
Which he has an evolution. It may not be an evolution that we like, but it is very clear what Saru was at the beginning of the season and how the events of the season change him. Whereas Michael doesn't feel changed at all. Tilly doesn't feel changed at all. Paul, nope. Hugh, nope. well, he's alive again, but no.
The character journeys that we have been on will also be addressed in what will hopefully be a satisfying way as well.
I think the audience has to have a satisfying experience of the season. I think they have to feel it's come full circle and that they've had an arc.
But the key, and it's what all the writers and we're all constantly striving for, is to make sure that we're not losing the small intimacy and that the big isn't overshadowing the little.
If we didn't have a battle, we would be really bad writers.
One of the things that we talked about too on our last episode recap is what character has changed for you the most upon the rewatch, for better or for worse. And Saru is that character. He has changed for the better and for the worse for me on the rewatch, because on the rewatch, he changes for me in terms of my appreciation of him has grown 10 times. He is the tent pole. He is the foundation of this show. He's the thing holding it together. He's the reason I still would watch the show. In all honesty, if his character left the show fully and was no longer in it, I would probably stop watching Star Trek Discovery. Just saying it straight up. And we would not do reviews of Star Trek Discovery without Saru in it, because he is the pillar of this. He's the heart and soul. He's the Star Trek in this Star Trek show. But at the same time, they've changed it for the worse for me, because I feel like they completely assassinated his character arc. His obvious series-long character arc of finding confidence in leadership in spite of his own low self-esteem. That is such a great journey to explore for a character, especially one in Star Trek. Because usually our Star Trek characters are pretty prim and proper, and even if they do have low self-esteem, it's kind of, they're pushing their chin up and plowing through. But Saru has vulnerabilities, and he's not afraid to actually show them. And his vulnerabilities are far more relatable to me, but at the same time, he's now evolved into a superior version of his character, and they've freed him of the shackles of that arc, and he's inherently boring. The rest of Season 2, I had barely anything to say about him because he just stood around.
Let them fight.
Let them fight. He just stood around, and he was now just what separates him from Chakotay. What separates him from Riker? What separates him from any first officer wanting to be a captain character now? Literally nothing other than he's a tall alien guy. That's the only difference. And yeah, he was one where the answer is he is both the best and worst kind of character improvement-wise. What about you? Who improved for the better and for the worse for you in this season? Because everyone gets something.
Yeah, Saru is still my favorite, and you covered basically everything that I wanted to say about Saru. And I do think that the worst of our mainstay characters was Tilly for me, but
Not Ash.
no, not even Ash, because Ash wasn't even in it enough. He pissed me off when he appeared, but he would disappear for longer spaces of time than Tilly. And Tilly's comedy got even worse for me on this watch. It just got so bad.
Yeah.
And the actress is so into it as well, which makes it cringy to me, because I'm like, oh, honey, you think that you're doing a really great job, and you think that you're doing important shit, and I just don't care, and I don't like it. And I'm like, I feel bad because I'm starting to hate you, and the actress isn't a bad person, but I'm like, oh no, I can't like you anymore. It's just too much.
It's too much. She's too much.
This is the power of math, people! Come on!
You are correct, MC.
What was the best episode? Because I've been racking my brain over it, because I mean, how many episodes did you give a Yum Yum to this season in comparison to the first? Because the first you were way more charitable. This season you were like,
yeah.
oh, I'll give Brother a Yum Yum because it was trashy fun. And then by season 4, like season 2, episode 4, you're like, none of them.
No.
They all get yums. But what was the best episode? Because I don't know.
I am being forced to give an answer, so you New Eden.
Yeah. I guess it's New Eden, which it serves as a veneer of what we like about Star Trek, but we talked about in our episode, it doesn't hit deep enough into what the possibilities of that setup is. And with season 3, they completely don't want to touch upon Terra Elysium at all. So
No.
it also feels like this episode was like a loose thread in
Yeah.
all of it all, in all the story. Like
And
they don't do anything with it in future
essentially-
storylines. So it
Essentially,
feels
that's
stupid.
what I had down for the worst thing about the season is how many things they gloss over. Because they don't have time and they don't want to dive into anything.
No.
They don't manage their time so that they get to go deeper, they get to
And that-
evaluate, they get to synthesize, they get to summarize, they get to deal with moral quandaries. There's no time for that because everything has to be moving, it has to be fast, it has to be doing this, has to be this, it has to be this, it has to.
But then the worst episodes are the ones where they slow down and nothing happens. My least favorite episode is Light and Shadows, I think. I mean, I want to say Point of Light, but at least Point of Light had the slight glimmer of plots in it, while Light and Shadows was like, here is Pike and Ash Tyler in a little shuttlecraft, and they go into a time rift, and nothing happens other than the villain comes through from and Michael just wanders about and goes back to Vulcan, and there's Spock, and he's crazy now, and nothing happened.
He's
Like that's
saying
my
numbers and they're in a cave.
That's my least favorite by far, because at least Point of Light made me laugh with like the face paint that had listening devices in it, and the baby head was funny, and
Yeah.
call me mother, which they never did.
No, they never did.
They call her
bet-
Chancellor.
Such Sweet Sorrow Part 1 is also very, very low on my list because
Goodbye,
there-
goodbye, goodbye.
it is one where the pacing feels weird because each scene has a relatively like quick pace to it.
But there's no drive.
There's a lot of chops.
Yeah, they quick edit. Yes.
They quick edit to give the illusion, I guess, of pacing. But the overall episode is just waiting in the water for episode 2.
Yeah,
Part 2, I mean.
It is just standing in the same place. Maybe you jogged on the spot, but that's not moving forward.
And
It's
also,
staying still.
I don't know, but just the image of Sarek meditating on a beach and then having a like Kartra connection to Michael and then them magically finding Discovery and then just yeeting back out of there after they say goodbye and then that's just it. Like that particularly just kind of sticks in my craw a little bit
Yeah, it wasn't good, was it?
because it's a simple moment.
Mm.
But what makes it worse for me is because, like, within those scenes, they're taking credit for work that they haven't actually done.
No.
They haven't actually managed to make me care about Sarek or Amanda. I don't feel like Sarek is even pretending to be Vulcan at all anymore in this show. And then Amanda is just whatever they need, however she needs to be for whatever's going on.
As long as she whispers her lines of dialogue, then she
Yeah.
can be whatever character you want her to be.
Yeah.
She can be a badass that you shouldn't mess with. She'll be a doting, loving wife, or she'll be a sassy character, or she's a genius until she isn't. As long as that actress whispers most of her lines, then she can be whatever you need her to be.
I just came from Starbase 5. I went to the psychiatric unit. They wouldn't tell me where he was. They wouldn't let me see him. They wouldn't say what was wrong with him.
We focus on the big picture of it all. And many people say, hey, it's about the big picture. But also people say, it's filled with so many great moments, so many iconic scenes and moments and lines of dialogue and action scenes and visuals and ideas. What was a standout moment for you in this season? What was something that lingers with you? When you think season 2, what are some big swooping moments or little quiet things that just stick in your brain?
I don't have any nice ones.
I didn't say that had to be nice. Just what's a moment?
No, I mean, like, I don't have any moments where I'm like, yep, that was okay or that was good. Serana's nice. Because when we were watching the episode, we paused it to be like, wait, did that ever come up again? And we were like, no.
No, but they spent a whole scene talking about a fucking knife and how important it was.
Thing. And it's just hollow. And the whole scene just echoes with its emptiness. The crew being forced to watch Burnham brutally die on the planet, that really got to me because I don't see why.
Yeah.
And they never explain the deaths that Spock was accused of. Like, were they actual people? Were they holograms?
They're never going to touch upon it again.
No, they never are. But it's a moment that sticks out to me because I'm just like, it feels like they just didn't think about it. They just didn't care enough.
They want you to feel.
To think about things and think beyond things. And then how little it mattered that Leland killed her parents and how much they milked it for tension.
Mine's a cheap answer. It's an obvious answer. Yum Yum.
Yeah.
That's Star Trek Discovery. It's that scene where the juxtaposition of the headiness of it, of with this deep philosophical show.
If you leave me alone, I'll get there faster.
Yeah, and there's a deep, heavy show where it's like, brother, you must reach out to those different to you, and I'm controlled. I'm going to destroy all sentient life, and yum yum. It's a clash of ideas and tones and consistencies all over the place. And you will throw at me if you like, oh, in other Star Treks they had goofy shit too. But I equate it to this. In The Best of Both Worlds, the episode where Picard gets assimilated by the Borg, you didn't have the famous scene in which Riker says, the camera spins around and he says, fire, and then it's a cliffhanger. You didn't have it where he says, fire, and then it pans over to Data on the bridge, and he just goes, heck yeah, and then no, it's played with a consistent tone. Star Trek can have its silly moments in episodes for sure, but this is Yum Yum is one of the most egregious things I've ever seen.
Silly moments go in silly scenes.
Yeah, and you can have
but not in Star Trek Discovery.
You can definitely have scenes that they weren't intended to be silly, that are silly. Yeah. And I'll make fun of those as well. But Star Trek Discovery, it's like, yum yum. Yum yum in a 2018 show. Yum yum,
and
people.
She's excited to torture.
We don't know anything about her character. We don't know anything about... They took 5 episodes to tell us her name. She literally had to walk into a crew of people that she had been serving with for what was weeks at that point and said, hello, I'm Nan, because the show realized they never told us. Yum Yum is the most standout moment of this season. Anything else is inferior to it because Yum Yum is just so out of left field, and yet it's so in the ballpark of this show. It is a perfect marriage.
Yum yum.
The best thing is that it's no longer a prequel and they can't...
Well, that's not of this season. This season made it so that the next season isn't a prequel anymore, but is that really the best thing?
Yeah, but they actually went into the future. Well, we
didn't see where they go.
No, we don't see where they go, but they aren't in the past anymore.
Okay. So you appreciate the fact that season 2 took 14 episodes to fix the issue that was the entire premise of Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
Doesn't that say a lot?
Yeah. I think this whole recap says a lot.
The best thing to me about season 2 as a whole is fuck, what is it? What is the best thing about the season?
Pike.
No, God no. Like, he's charming and effortless, sure, but like, he's not a character that matters to this show at the end of the day. He's a character that matters because they brought someone from the old canon into the show, but he doesn't actually matter to the long-lasting legacy of this show. He's just a guy that was played by a really charming dude, but it doesn't really matter. It's like, I could also say, oh, Jacob in that one episode, that guy was a really charming actor and he did a really great job, but it doesn't make him... The best thing of the season 2 is they... Fuck, I don't know. I actually don't know.
See, that's why I went with mine. Because I was just like, you know what? Season 3 is a dumpster fire, in my current opinion. But at least it can't as easily rest on the laurels of older Star Trek.
Fuck, I actually don't know. What is there that's the best thing? What is the best thing about season 2?
Oh, we'll learn what number 1's name is, Ryan.
Yeah, Una. Really good job, writers.
I can't remember if we mentioned that in the actual episode where it comes up.
It's so bizarre because I think this season was an improvement over the first, but I struggle to say what was the best thing about it. Mm-hmm. It passed the time.
That's even more pathetic than my answer, I think.
Yeah, but when I know that what season 3 offers up, I look back at season 2 and say, at least it had energy.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Sometimes it had energy.
It wasn't one flat off-key note.
And the worst thing about this season is it just had nothing to follow through on. It followed through on nothing. That's a broad statement. It wasted my time. That's
vacuous. So vacuous and hollow, and it thinks because it's painting this big picture that makes it important.
Our mandate together has been, we are going to deliver you a movie on television. It's just going to be 13, 14, 15 hours long. And the thing that, having traveled in the movie world and having traveled in the feature world, the thing that in the television world, the thing that I love about television is that you can spend real time getting into the nuances and the smaller details of characters' lives and arcs that you just don't have time for in 2 hours.
Orange, really? Yeah.
I'm thoroughly exhausted, so I think it's time for the Hugh Dam.
Why is he in the show?
I don't know. I don't think they know.
Why did they kill him? Why did they bring him back? Why is he in the show?
He has lines, and they like doing the thing where the main characters aren't the head of their departments because they're not like other Star Treks.
But why is he here? Why is he here? Why does he exist in this show as a whole?
To have an identity crisis.
No. That's their response to the fact that they killed him off in the first season, something that got rejected by everyone. Why is he even here? Why was he born into this show? What does he offer up that no other character does?
Nothing. That is the answer. For me, it is nothing. I was trying to think of things and you just shut everything down because the real answer for us is nothing.
The only answer I can think of is he is the person that Paul loves, and the only way to make Paul a very prickly, angry, snarky character have emotional depth is to give him someone he loves and then take that away from him. And that doesn't say anything about Hugh. That says something about Paul.
Yeah. We went through that a lot
I-
last season, I think. But yeah, he is not there for who he is or what he can do, but for his connections to other people.
We haven't actually broached this, but why not? May not be our place. People may get upset, but is one of the reasons, other than he is a person Paul loves, is just because representation matters, and that is enough? Because I get frustrated, and I get frustrated because I want to see stories from these characters, but am I just overlooking the fact that he doesn't need a story? The fact that he exists as representation is
And
enough.
that means a lot to a lot of people, but we've been over it a lot of times where we think that just having a gay character or an LGBT character does not make for good representation, and people deserve good representation.
You need to give them a character for a start.
Yeah. That, like, I think we've made it very clear that we think that the character, as well as the people who are looking for representation, deserve better and deserve more than what they get here.
It is as if the show is giving the people who want and need that representation, it's as if they're just giving them crumbs and throwing it on the floor for them to eat, and that is sustaining enough. Well, I see, like, shows like Sense8 actually have full-fledged characters that are gay people of color, that have stories and relationships that you understand, and themes and nuances. I get so frustrated when something like you exists. Someone like you, a character, minorly exists and gets praise for just existing. And I thought people want more than just, hey, there's a gay character in a show. Because hasn't many a shows had just, but it's Star Trek, right? Star Trek hasn't had an openly gay character before. So that's a big step. I was expecting, when they said that, they would take more than the step of, well, we have to. I thought they're going to take the step of actually developing them and giving them full-fledged stuff to do, and actually having a reason for their characters to exist outside of just, well, we wanted to hit a check mark. Here we are 3 seasons later, and I still don't know why Hugh's in the show, other than he is someone Paul loves. That's it. He's not a character of his own. It's fucking disappointing. He's the Doctor, and they don't give him any Doctor stuff to do either. Like, at least give him that. At least give him a career.
Yeah, they only give him some occasional technobabble.
I ask this as well. I was thinking about this today. They show it in season 2 and they explore it in season 3. Why is he a Doctor, and why was he never the counselor of the ship? Think about his character. Doesn't it make more sense that he would be a counselor than a doctor?
It does. But he's a doctor because he got that scar.
No, but I'm talking about from the conception of the show. They always think of him as... They always say, Hugh's this empathic person, this empathetic person. Why was he not the doctor? Why is he the doctor and not the counselor of the ship? What does he do as a doctor that really defines that character needs to be the doctor, in comparison to what does that character do that could define him as the counselor? Because as little as they give him, I think
they treat him as a counselor.
They do. They make him in that role because I think they realize his character is better suited to that than to a doctor, because they never give him anything doctory to do other than, Michael, the test results came in and it proves you're the Red Angel. They always position his doctoring as, oh, and he's a doctor, I guess. It's kind of inconvenient. Well, it feels like more natural to me, with what little we get of his character, that he is someone who would be far better suited to the field of being a psychologist or a counselor of some sort. But instead, they just don't have him that way, because in Star Trek, traditionally, you have a doctor character. Is that the only reason he's a doctor? Because traditionally, you have one that's a doctor.
I can't be bothered making excuses or trying to find justifications.
No.
It just is, I don't like it, and I'm tired of it being so bad.
If he was not the love of Paul's life, they would have left him behind as a story beat. If they did not perform the bury your gaze trope, if he was not this, he would not be a character that they would be not following through on, continuing on, because Ash Tyler, they leave behind, and they barely give him anything to do this season. Because nobody liked Ash Tyler. Ash Tyler doesn't check all of these hot topic boxes like Hugh does. So they as writers feel free and easy to abandon and dump him to the wayside because there's nothing to do with that character. But Hugh, they've trapped themselves in a certain way where we're going to forever be stuck with him. But they don't develop him into anything greater than the Memory Alpha first summary line of Dr. Hugh Colber is the partner of Paul Stamets and a doctor on the Discovery. That's as deep as he gets.
You know, Hugh was in service of Paul Stamets' character. He was basically who Paul loved. In season 2, we get to know who Hugh is as a person, what his ambitions are, what his concerns are, who does he want to be, what are the consequences of what happened to him. So we get to learn that, and we get to learn that about this relationship as well. So I promise you, it's all good.
Season 3 is what we'll be covering after the short treks. We're going to be talking about the short treks, obviously. We'll do those in one episode like the previous ones. Then we'll talk about season 3. There'll be a break in between this and the short treks. We'll do short treks, and then bam, like last time, we'll be continuing on with season 3. Season 3, our overall thoughts are it was a bad season. Boring. That's my sentiment. It's a very boring, dull season that I don't think, unlike this season and the first season, I don't think it even had potential because it starts out the gate just being very dull to me.
Felt tedious.
Yeah, it felt like any shred of optimism of this becoming a great show was squandered because out the gate,
or even more Star Trek-y.
Not even that, just out the gate, season 3 was just, we're just going to be wandering from place to place and none of our characters are going to grow particularly, and we don't have time for anything. And again, it felt like more of the same, but duller and duller and duller. That's how I feel about season 3, but maybe the rewatch will redefine, and we're hoping to get a couple of guests on during that season of discussion to get some different viewpoints, because obviously we've been watching season 3. We watched season 3 when it aired while doing this show. That kind of puts a different slant on thing, and we want to hear from some other people and get their takes on whether they think it is the best season, because many people say it's the best season, even though IMDb, all the reviews are the majority of them are the lowest rated episodes consistently throughout any of the seasons. None of them crack above a 7. So that will be what we'll be talking about. We'll delve into season 3 and kind of see how our feelings on it evolve or change or solidify, and kind of further explain how those episodes initially made us feel and why they made us feel this way. But overall, general blanket statement, we didn't like season 3.
No.
Maybe it'll get better, because I do think I want to see...
Maybe.
I do genuinely want to see on my rewatch, try to look at it and see, why do people think that was the best season of this show? Because many people say it's the best season of the show. But at the same time, I worry because every season is the best season of the show.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like we pointed out earlier in this recording that people were saying that season 2 is so much better than season 1. And then it's like, well, season 3 is so much better than season 2.
And season 4 will blow season 3 out of the water. Because
it only just gets better and better, Ryan.
That's it, people. Rachel, a pleasure in interrogating you and you interrogating me about our recap feelings on season 2. The behemoth has been slayed. And we
are now on the other side of Yum Yum.
Man. Makes me a little bit sentimental, you know? Those innocent days where we're working our way towards Yum Yum, and now we're walking away from it. Each
And-
moment, we're getting further and further away from Yum Yum. Instead of following the beacon, we're drifting from it now.
And soon we will say goodbye to Nan.
What a sad thing. But you people out there don't have to say goodbye to us. You can follow us on those social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. We're always posting on there, interacting with people. We have our Patreon, yumyumpod on Patreon. All of this is in the description. We have multitudes of episodes on there. We have a good back catalogue, and we're still working our way through the Star Trek movies, best and worst episodes of other Star Trek shows, our general thoughts on other shows, games, and so on, and all that is there. And rate and review us on whatever podcatcher you use, and allows you to do that, because we love getting feedback. Rachel, where can people contact us as well if they want to shoot off an email?
yumyumpod@gmail.com.
Yum. Well, Rachel, that's it. We're done here. What do you want to leave us on for this? What words of yum yum do you want to bestow upon us all?
Take the blind leap of faith.